Hello, happy Sunday. Welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I hope that the time change in the US has not confused anyone, and that shortly we'll have some people pop in for our discussion today. I realized as I planned for today that it was going to be a pretty short live because I really didn't have anything new or exciting to share with you at the beginning of the video. And this card is not one that really requires a lot of explanation. I mean, people tend to get this card. It's why it's so similar from one deck to the next. Of course, I'm talking about the Three of Cups, which is the card that we will be discussing this week. So I thought I might just share a couple of things that I experienced this week and also do some of the things I usually do before a video or before I am studying and preparing for my card creation process. So the first thing is, this week was Diwali, and because many of my neighbors and friends celebrate Diwali, I like to learn about other people's faiths and their traditions, and sometimes you can find meaning in those things that relate to your own spiritual experience. And so I did take time to work with light this week and to learn more about the practices of my neighbors and friends. And one of the things that I did, just because I like a good theme, right? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch some of my favorite films that are based in India. And I even found some new things that I really loved. There's a really great movie. I forget which subscription service I saw it on. It's called Friend-in-Law, which I really enjoyed. It was a lot of fun. And it is about a mother in India coming to terms with her son's sexuality. It was a lot of fun. But one of my favorite movies that I've watched time and again is the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, and the sequel to that, which is the second best exotic Marigold Hotel. And one of the quotes in that has always stuck with me, and it is, "Everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, then it's not yet the end." And I do like that phrase. And it's something that I've only recently begun to embrace in my life. There were many years where I just saw every setback as the end. And now I'm just like, you know what? Tomorrow it'll be different. And so enjoying working with that and creating a little bit while I watch TV. I did get one thing this week. I don't know exactly how I'm going to use it though. It was a gift card to a store I rarely go to, and I happened to see it, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll get it. It's a journal, and it's leather-ish, and and I kind of like the color. So I'm thinking at some point I'm either going to take a brown marker or a stain pen or something of some kind, and I'm going to draw some kind of sunflower design on it or something. But I don't know yet actually what I'm going to use it for and put in it, but I'll have it on hand when I actually need it. So I was very grateful for that gift card that came in for my birthday. So let's get started with my practice. Like when I'm beginning to study a card, I usually will put a little oil on because I love scent and I like scent association. There are certain smells that immediately remind me of specific decks I have because I always use those oils with those decks. And so for my journey through creating my own tarot deck, I chose one of my favorite oils, which is called Danu, from the Witch's Moon. Danu is a goddess which there's not a lot known about. There's a lot of assumptions about her. There are a lot of rivers that appear to be named after her. And so being a person who grew up on a river, I've just always kind of been drawn to her and that kind of energy. And so that's kind of my spiritual connection there is with that oil. Welcome, Amy, and everyone else popping in. It's great to see you. And I'm just walking through kind of my ritual before I start each time, since I don't have a lot of other things to share today about my journey. And I was just talking about how I use this oil. I also light incense, and the incense I chose as I'm working through this deck creation process is actually pine and cinnamon. It's the incense that I use with my ancestors because I do want their input in this deck creation process, that kind of heritage in there. And I'm gonna have to lift it high because I have my fan on because I'm freezing. I'm burning up. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's better. Having that fan on isn't really helping my case. And I'll put the incense over there so we can smell it. The other thing that I do is I like to have a candle burning, and I guess that pine and cinnamon can smell a little bit Christmassy, but it just reminds me of the pine forest around where I grew up in South Carolina. And pine is something that grows throughout Scotland, where my ancestors are from as well. And there's this actual, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's actually this map that shows the chain of mountains which go up the East Coast in the US and how those used to connect with the mountains that are in Scotland and the UK, that area. And so I always thought that was an interesting association. And so that's why I always associate those scents with my ancestors and my heritage, so to speak. I also like to burn candles. I love the Crystal Journeys candles. And this one is called Motivation. When I first started, I felt myself getting bored after a couple of weeks. And it was one of the things going into this project that I knew I needed was motivation, because I've been playing around with this for 10 years and I had gotten nowhere on it except for maybe 2 cards. And so that's the candle that I chose to burn during my creation process as I begin studying each week. And yeah, so once I've done that and I've looked at the card for a little while to get my first impressions and everything, then I start going through the 20 or so books that I've been reading and seeing what they have to say. And I'll share a little bit about that shortly. But on day one, I show you the card. And then on day 2 on Instagram, I show you cards from other decks that I really like. And so I'm going to do that real quick. Something I just learned is that this is the deck I'm using for the week ahead spread that started today. So this card was not in the deck when we did our week ahead spread. This is from the Curious Travels deck, and very much reminiscent of the Waitsmith imagery. You'll see the pumpkins. Pumpkins are gourds, which symbolize abundance, prosperity. And then you have the 3 maidens who are cheering one another there. Some decks will forego the cups. This is one that's very much about showing support for one another, which is an aspect of this card. This is from the Light Seers Tarot. This is the Jewel Mauve Tarot, which is now out of print. I thought it was a pretty deck. I actually saw the creator of the deck at an event, and they were selling the last of their decks at a discount, and I decided to pick it up. And it is a beautiful deck. I don't work with it a lot because it is very RWS based, and I'm constantly having other decks that are coming in, but perhaps I'll pull it out soon for one of our week ahead spreads over on Instagram. This is the Uncommon Tarot. Again, you'll see the 3 ladies enjoying one another's company, and the cups are there. It's another of that idea of support. supporting one another from the Saucerad Vito. This week I did pull from decks, which I really haven't shown a lot of because all of the decks pretty much like they do with the Six of Wands understood when they created their cards what it was about. And so they're all very similar to the Waitsmith or their Three Cups raised in cheer. This is from the Hip Chick Tarot. There is actually a walkthrough of this deck where I interview Maria Strom, who is the creator of it. That was one of my very first projects on YouTube. So check that out if you've never seen it. That is an all-female deck. It's my only all-female deck. And since I'm talking about that, I'm actually at a place now where I would like to work with a all feminine deck, and get to know that energy better. I've always had this thought that tarot should be a specific way. And recently, as I've studied other decks like the Numinous Tarot, I've been opening my mind up to the possibility that tarot can be other things. Does it have to be these four suits and these specific names of the cards? It's more about the energy that is in the card rather than what they're called. And so I am a little more open to having a all feminine deck than I have been in the past. So if you have one that's your favorite, let me know. I'm currently considering the Sacred Sisterhood, although there are a couple of cards in it that I think stray from where I think the tarot should be, but we'll get back to that. Some cards actually focus on the cups. I thought this one was really cool. This is from the Lily White, which I've shown before. It's three fish circling the three cups there. And then this is from the Urban Tarot. At the end of this project, I'm going to have to go back through and see which decks I use the most, but this one keeps coming up over and over again. I do really love this deck. It has a lot of Thoth influence that you'll see from time to time, but it also pulls on the Waitsmith meanings of the cards at times too. This is a great depiction of the card, the three hands up there celebrating, and then in the background there is like a whole city with fireworks, and there is a cake, and yeah, beautiful. And then this is from the Hearts and Hands. The Hearts and Hands is a gorgeous black and white deck, which was just picked up by US Games in the last year. It actually was, this was the self-published version by Liz Blackbird. And I've always been tempted to trim it because it's just a little bit large. However, you would destroy the imagery in some of the cards because they break from the rectangle if you trimmed it. So, but I do love working with this from time to time, especially if space allows. It is a gorgeous deck. So this is the only deck which brings in nudity as part of ritual. And this is the Golden Thread. And so we're beginning to see that ritual aspect, which is something that Waite says is in this card. But usually we don't get that from the depiction of the card. We usually more get that celebration. But the idea of three women dancing in a circle, I guess, alludes to that idea of ritual. And the pumpkins, which hint at the time of year, basically fall, when that deacon comes around. This is the Bonestone and Earthflesh, which is the deck I'm currently working with through the moon cycles. And it very much more focuses on ritual. You'll see them dancing around the cauldron there. And then this card is the reason I purchased this deck, which I rarely use because it's a stretch for me. Like, I mean, this is the most bizarre deck I have ever purchased. And that is the Mystic Garbage Tarot. But I loved this idea. Here you see the figures from the moon, the star, and the sun card dancing together. And I just loved this idea of the celestials celebrating together with one another in the sky, so to speak. And I thought that was a gorgeous depiction for this card. And so it is probably the main reason that I purchased that deck, which from time to time I do enjoy working with, but I rarely show it um, on social media because there is depictions of genitals in it, and you never know when they're going to pop up, those particular cards. So I kind of stray away from it. But I do love this image and I love this concept. So let's talk about the Waitsmith image a little bit. I've mentioned about the pumpkins, which are also gourds. There's kind of this wreath kind of aspect, like things are laid out in a kind of like decorative manner so that Amy, thank you so much. That's just hilarious. Um, so um yeah, and so I had never really thought about that. When I think of this card, I immediately, from my initial reaction to the card early on in my practice, was this is community, right? I associated this with me and my friends doing our tarot meetup once a month, and something that doesn't happen anymore, something that I'm craving in my life that I'm going to have to figure out a way to make happen. Um, and maybe now that I'm on my third booster, I'll think about how to make it happen myself somewhere. But um, and that is an aspect of this card, right? There is that support. There are three people here. It's not just one person with their glasses raised. And but very much this is a card of celebration, as Crowley calls it, the Lord of Abundance, which is the Golden Dawn connection to this card. Um, and that's what the pumpkins and gourds are there to represent, as well as the other fruits. Is this idea that we're celebrating together the results of our community effort. Um, and So yeah, so that's the visuals of this card. When I colored it, I did do a couple of things. One is I used the fabulous new markers that Amy sent me to create a community of women of various races and ages. I tried to make this one look like she was the youngest, but I actually think this one probably should have been the youngest. I kind of made her cheeks rosy and did her in pink and to make her feel a little bit younger, to give you that ritual idea, Mother Maiden Crone entering there, which is something that some decks actually actively embrace in this deck. In this card, you'll see a Mother Maiden and Crone, such as in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. Again, I didn't do the sky because of the large amount of color it takes, but it would be blue probably because this is a positive card. You'll notice in some of my deck card creations where the sky is actually gray, and that's because that card tends to be a bummer, right? Like when I did the 5 of Cups, I did the sky gray. So yeah, and I just added a little color to the outfits because I love teal, so I wanted a teal dress in there. But I left this one basically like it is on the card, and yeah, it's a nice image. I love it, and you'll see how I did incorporate a little bit of my feelings from my sketch that I did into it with the gray hair and the youth and all of that. So this is, again, the Lord of Abundance. It is about celebration, friendship, support, community, sisterhood. Perhaps this is why I'm thinking about finding an all feminine deck to work with a bit, is because of studying this card. It's about allies. It can be about ritual, which is something we've talked a little bit about today. As far as the ritual that goes into my deck creation process, and then victory and happy endings. So, we're toasting here at the end of something, or maybe it is the beginning of something. So maybe something has ended and now something else is beginning. And I'll talk about that again in a minute when I show you the card I ended up creating. Now, reverse, or the shadow side of this, is that the party's over, right? you know, or alternately that this is excess, right? That you're going overboard. There's too much. It's not just simple abundance, but it's like way too much. Um, so there is this idea from the book Secrets of the Smith Waite Tarot. I think that's what it's called. About this being connected to the suffragette movement, of which Pixie Pamela Coleman Smith was a part, and finding people you share values with and celebrating the successes with them. And this is something that Cassandra Snow mentions in their book, Queering the Tarot, is, this is when something good has happened in a community and we're able to come together in the queer community. Perhaps it was when marriage equality came to the US, or in theory, at least. And so the one thing that Waite was specific about that most deck creators are not is that he says these are three maidens. So he does not emphasize that maiden mother crone energy that we sometimes see in this. But there is that ritual aspect that kind of shows up. And so that's why so many creators have brought that into their decks. Yeah. So those are the things that have come up this week as I've studied the Three of Cups. And what I ended up creating is this image. And let's just pull it up. And the funny thing is that when I started this, I had this idea in my mind. And the idea in my mind was that it was three people sitting around a table with having tea, similar to what I did with my photo of the day tarot card, which was posted on Instagram this week. You can hop over there and look at that if you've not seen it, which was with my tarot group. And I was struggling to find the images for that. And I really didn't have, like with most of the cards, an image from my life that I wanted to portray. And so I just began searching for Creative Commons images that had the feel I wanted of celebration. And I came across these three figures and I was like, okay, yeah, I can totally work with them. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, okay, they need to be like in a bar or something. And then I found the bar and I started adding the cocktails. So there were three vessels in there. And then I thought, well, I want to relate this to the Waitsmith imagery and the idea of the Lord of Abundance. And so I decided to bring in the pumpkins as decorations. And then I'm looking at this image when I finished it and I'm like, oh my God, this is a scene in my life. So this harkens back to when I was in my mid 30s, early 40s. And my neighbors and I used to get together every Friday or Saturday, and we would have wine. We would talk about the week, we would eat, and we would generally have fun while the kids played. And there was a group of people who once a week got together and they celebrated our successes individually together. And that's kind of something that I've missed. We don't do that anymore. Some people are no longer connected for various reasons, and the kids have all gotten older. And so there's not a need to get together so the kids can play and that kind of thing. So there's not that in my life, but at one time there was, and I really miss those moments. And so now I'm thinking, rather than be in a bar, they are actually in someone's living room, just outside the kitchen. So, which is very much what things looked like when we were getting together. We would be having wine and whatnot, sitting around someone's living room, and the food would be on the bar in the kitchen, because all of our houses are set up similarly in that the kitchen's on one side and the living room's on the other, and there's a pass through between the two. And so, regardless of which one of our houses we're in, even if they're arranged differently, it has that same feel. And so, I'm very happy with how it ended up. And it's really interesting to me that in this particular card, the image that I ended up with actually reminded me of a memory rather than it being based on a memory like all of my other cards. One of the things I've started this week, if you want to check it out, is I have started. There we go. I've started creating images on TikTok, which I had actually done before. However, I forgot. See, when I did the first card, I created an image of her, and I forgot I had done that with kind of a keyword and everything. And then, so this weekend, I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do on TikTok. I'm going to share these. So this is what I came up with. Let's celebrate for the tree. And I didn't feel like it was necessary to put a keyword on it because the song had the keyword in it. So I'm very happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is over November, I'm going to post the other, can you believe it, 12 cards that have been created so far, and give them a little video. And then I'll be on track doing one a week. What's interesting is if you go to TikTok and look up Good Journeys Tarot, if you play all my videos, like the first one through the last one, it's really an interesting journey through the tarot. I'm very excited about how that's coming together. And so I'm looking forward to posting those. I do want to show you the Nine of Pentacles, which we talked about last week, because I have changed it. I added something. I don't know if you can see it here, but I put the snail in there. So I got to thinking about the card, and I was like, I really want to pay homage in some way to the Smith Waite imagery. And as most people do, I use the little snail. So that was an update for that particular card. So the last thing that I do in my ritual every week is that I draw the card for the next week, and we're getting thinner here. I have noted, I don't know if you have, but I've yet to have any court cards. And I've also yet to have any of the aces. And I'm a little bit dreading when we get to those, because those are going to be more complicated for me personally to create. I think the way that I have been doing things. So normally what I do is, because I shuffled these heavily when I first started, is I will just shuffle them 3 times. That's kind of part of one of the things I do in my practice is, like, if I'm working with a deck on an ongoing process, I'll shuffle it really good the first time. And then as I'm pulling additional cards or doing other readings about the same thing, I may only shuffle it a few times. And then I like to cut them. So I'm going to cut them. And I draw the card. And I usually do this at the beginning of my video off screen, and then I'll show you the card at the end. Today, I'm sharing my whole experience with everyone. And so our card for this week is the Hierophant. Interestingly enough, this is a card that has been coming up this week for me. I definitely have been gaining a lot of knowledge. I spent 7 hours yesterday in a class with Benabel Wynn. It was as intense as any class I took in grad school. And I couldn't believe there were people who had never studied the tarot there, because I couldn't keep up, and I knew about the tarot. Yeah, so it was definitely a knowledge-based experience, and um, which is some of what you get from the Hierophant. And so I'm kind of looking forward to working with this card. I know a lot of people want to just dramatically change it. And as a result, you get something more like a guru or that type of thing. I think it's the Christian imagery that gets people, that kind of hierarchical aspect to it, it being the Pope from the um, Marseille. And I kind of get that. But at the same time, I feel like that there's a specific energy there that you need in the tarot because it is an archetype, right? So we'll talk more about that next week when we talk about the Hierophant. Kind of looking forward to this card. I have had thoughts about it for a while. Yeah, Popish, right. Right. Absolutely. So I'm so happy that you are here today and that you're watching this video in playback. And this Wednesday, I will be doing a walkthrough of one of my decks. I don't know which one yet because no one has asked for one, and I have a long list down in the comments below on YouTube. You'll see my entire list of decks and that I've never done a video on. And if you want to see one of those decks, let me know. Otherwise, I'll try to just draw one at random to do a walkthrough of. There is also a new video from Simon at the Hermit's Cave that I might do a VR tube, but I will definitely have a video for you on Wednesday. If you haven't already, go and check out the video that I posted this week, which was a walkthrough of the Numinous Tarot, which is fast becoming one of my favorite decks and is opening my eyes to possibilities in many decks I never would have considered before. So until next time, I hope everyone has a great week, and please check out all the activity on Instagram related to the Hierophant this week, as well as my new YouTube video on Wednesday. And I will see you next time. Good journeys.